him to be changed. I didn't want grace to be for him. I didn't trust that it was true. But then over time, I physically saw a change take place. I saw this man that I never saw crack the Bible open ever, fall asleep with his face in the Word on a nightly basis. I remember coming home at night and I would like tuck him in and put his Bible up and we would start talking, and it seemed like every night at some point he would just say, "I'm so sorry for what I did to you. I wish I could make it up to you. I wish I could fix it." And I don't know if I realized at the time, but looking back, that's kind of what he was doing that whole time, every conversation that we had. And just watching this man face death and fall in love with Christ and to truly see what he was and what he became, it changed my life. And it was such a change that by the time he passed away, I went from being scared I would be like him one day to this was the guy I wanted to be like when I grew up. That to this day, he's one of the godliest men I've ever known. And I say all this because, my wife was my first girlfriend in 7th grade. She knew my dad, and we've been married for almost 17 years. We have 5 amazing kids, and we kind of gone through things in our adult life, in our marriage, where we realize that I don't deal with issues very well, and I don't deal with grief very well. So we went to counseling to kind of figure all this kind of stuff out, and we had this amazing counselor that first thing she said to me was, "Let's go back to your childhood." And I was like, "No, that's not what I signed up for. I had a bad Tuesday." She's like, "Well, it's kind of all connected." And so we started unpacking all this and just showing me how it is all connected. And one of the things she said to me that made me just fall apart was, she said, if you ever want to see what you would have been like growing up in a godly family environment, just watch your middle son, Charlie. He's just like you. I started bawling. I don't even know why I was crying. I think because we convinced her we had a godly family environment. I was like, let's get it. But I just started bawling, and now I stare at Charlie. He probably thinks I'm a weirdo because I'm always watching him. But I say all this because I think there's a lot of people out here that have these kind of mommy and daddy issues. That you've carried this guilt and this shame, believing that it's your fault, and that the enemy has told you you've done something along the way that's disqualified you. That has kind of ruined your whole chance of being anything or anybody. And that's not the gospel. Man, I carried that with me almost all of my life. To realize that the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead that dwells inside of me has been telling me I'm holy, righteous, and redeemed on a daily basis. I just don't know if I was listening. And my prayer is this next song, I started thinking about Charlie and about if he's 8, and if I knew back then what I know now, how would things be differently? If I could go back and talk to the younger version of me, what would I say to him? I was like, man, I don't know where to even start. But then I mentioned this friend earlier on that came into my life and reminded me there's nothing I can do to make Christ love me any more than he already does right now. One of the things he did for me on a regular basis for about 2 or 3 years, he would text me, "You are holy, you are righteous, and you are redeemed, and I am for you," over and over and over again. And eventually, I started to believe it. Not only did I start to believe who I am in Christ, I started to believe that somebody was for me. So I started thinking, what would I say to the 8-year-old version of me if I could go back? And I realized I know exactly what I would say. I would tell him, "You are holy, righteous, and redeemed," over and over and over and over and over again. Because if that alone turned my world upside down at 40, how much damage could I have done if I understood it at 8? And so I believe that music kind of makes a difference. And I pray that these next few words and this next 2 or 3 minutes of music just kind of lightens the load for some of you. That you can let go whatever it is that just seems to be holding you down, and you can understand truly who you are in Christ. And the good news about grace is you may have come to know Christ when you were 10 years old. And this perspective may sink in right now. It doesn't mean that you weren't saved. Christ knew who you were in Him the whole time. We're just starting to figure it out. But when it sets in, this becomes the greatest journey of all time. And you will find a joy that you never knew was possible. So anyway, I just pray that this song could just kind of let you just exhale for a little bit. This song is called "Dear Younger Me."